Donald Trump, the President of the United States, in case you forgot, doesn't know if he has to uphold the Constitution. And that is actually just one of the things that he's said or shared over the past few days that's got people, let's say, talking. Things including more threats to invade another country, offensive AI imagery, a new tariff announcement, and a promise to reopen the country's most notorious prison. Let's, start with the Constitution of it all, with Trump's comments coming during an interview with NBC's Kristen Welker on Meet the Press. Right in there, at one point, she asked Trump about the Supreme Court's order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from El Salvador, which the Trump administration has said is out of its control, and also claiming it would be complying with the order by simply allowing the man back if he somehow made it here. But then, last week you had Trump saying in an interview with ABC News that he could bring Abrego Garcia back if he wanted, but he chooses not to, seemingly admitting defiance to the Supreme Court. And to that, Trump's other comments, the whole Abrego Garcia case, and really so many of the administration's other actions on immigration, including deportations to El Salvador under the Alien Enemies Act, they've all raised serious questions about the White House's respect for due process, rule of law, and by extension, the Constitution. And so Welker basically asked him point blank if he'd stand up for those basic principles, and he could not say yes.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth, some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Also, here you had Welker asking about something else that would violate the Constitution, but has been supported by Trump's supporters, a third term.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do. I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody.
So notably, here and now at least, you have Trump rejecting the idea of running again more clearly than he has at times in the past, but he also didn't seem to know, or at least didn't want to acknowledge, what the Constitution says on that subject. We then also in this interview had Welker asking about Trump's past comments on taking over Canada and Greenland, and to that, Trump mostly, but not entirely, ruled out military action against Canada, though he definitely did not rule out using military force against Greenland.
Would you rule out military force to take Canada?
Well, I think we're not going to ever get to that point. It could happen. Something could happen with Greenland. I'll be honest. We need that for national and international security.
But not with
I think
Canada?
It's highly unlikely. I don't see it with Canada. I just don't see it. I have to be honest with you.
Now, moving past that interview, which I'll link to, you can watch the full thing, Trump and the White House, as usual, were busy on social media this weekend, with, among other things, Trump posting this AI-generated image and the White House later sharing it of him as the Pope. But this notably as the actual Pope just died a few weeks ago and the church is getting ready to begin the process of picking a new one. So as you might imagine, a lot of people, especially a number of Catholics, found this in pretty poor taste, with, for example, the New York State Catholic Conference saying, "There's nothing clever or funny about this image, Mr. President. We just buried our beloved Pope Francis, and the cardinals are about to enter a solemn conclave to elect a new successor of St. Peter. Do not mock us." So that was not the only AI-generated image that the White House posted that pissed it off a seemingly devout community, but it was a much different one. Star Wars fans. Right in that, because they shared a "May the 4th be with you" post slamming, quote, "radical left lunatics fighting to bring Sith lords, murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and well-known MS-13 gang members back into our galaxy," and adding, "You're not the rebellion, you're the empire." So this is, among other things, commenters were quick to point out that Trump's holding a red lightsaber, which is usually the kind used by the bad guys, and that, as you had many arguing that if anyone was the empire, it would be Trump and Republicans right now. Right, noting that they essentially have all the power right now, and they've just been issuing crackdown after threat after crackdown after threat. Also, on the note of movies, if some of the Star Wars movies were coming out today, because of Trump, there's a chance that George Lucas would have to pay tariffs on them. Right, and that is connected to our next piece of news, which is that Trump says that he's putting a 100% tariff on movies made outside of the US. The Star Wars movies, they they were filmed in locations all over the world. But also, if you're wondering what a tariff on a movie would actually look like, you're not alone. Because we know the president seemingly loves tariffs, slapping everything and everyone with them. But movies, they're not loaded onto pallets and shipped into the country, at least not since DVDs. And with that, all that Trump has actually done so far is authorize the Commerce Department and the US Trade Rep to, quote, immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. With him claiming that the movie industry in America is dying a very fast death because other countries have incentivized filmmakers and studios to move productions away from the US, and adding, this is a concerted effort by other nations and therefore a national security threat. It is, in addition to everything else, messaging and propaganda. Notably, however, the vast majority of movies shown in American cinemas, they're technically produced in the US. Right? One, in the sense that we're talking about American companies, and two, in the sense that script writing, pre-production, casting, and some editing often all actually physically happen in the US. At the same time though, however, the actual filming, that is increasingly taking place abroad. And Trump is actually correct in saying that other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the United States. With these incentives normally coming in the form of tax breaks, which combined with things just getting more expensive in the US have led to a lot of production taking place in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and a few places throughout Europe. And so as a result, thousands of middle-class film workers in the US have reportedly lost work. In fact, according to the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, for example, roughly 18,000 full-time jobs have been eliminated in just the past 3 years, primarily in California. And actually, a very notable thing is that with that, California Governor Gavin Newsom has already proposed a massive tax credit to bring production back to Hollywood. But that is notably an incentive, whereas Trump's proposal, in addition to being super unclear, is an attack. And so among other things, you have people going, would it apply to US companies shooting films abroad? What if only part of it was shot overseas? And would it apply to movies on streaming services and theaters, or both? Plus, what about post-production visual effects work? A single movie can sometimes involve several specialized firms operating all around the world. So we'll have to wait to see, what the administration comes up with and if they carry through and if it's just gonna be a mess or not. But then the final thing that I'll touch on for this segment is that Trump posted on Truth Social that he has directed the government to reopen and expand Alcatraz, right? Which, if you don't know, is just a notorious US prison that's been closed for more than 60 years now. With Trump specifically saying the site, which is on a small island offshore San Francisco, would be used to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. So of course with that, you have people saying, one, well, will due process be involved here? And two, why are you doing this? It does not make sense. Right? Because reportedly, Alcatraz is impractical and expensive, and it was closed in 1963 for multiple reasons, including decaying infrastructure and the high costs of repairing and even just supplying a facility that could only be accessed by boat. But hey, just because it doesn't make any sense doesn't mean that it's not gonna happen. For now, we'll have to wait to see. Hey, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this clip from the full Philip DeFranco show. And also, a big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring our Clips channel. Turn your passion into profit over at squarespace.com/Phil, or use the QR code. Because whether you're launching a business or a lucrative side hustle, your website is your digital business card. It's the only space where you control the story, no algorithms or distractions. And with Squarespace, it's so easy because they got a ton of stunning professional templates with drag and drop editing that makes site design incredibly simple, no coding required. So get started for free at squarespace.com/Phil, or scan the QR code on screen and use code Phil for 10% off when ready to launch. Squarespace.com/Phil.